Mazzy here. Mazzy loves you. This is for James Griffiths. Supposedly, James says the definition of a city is a place that has a cathedral, unlike a town or a county or something else. At least in the UK. I have no idea if that is true in the US or the rest of the world, but I think actually, I know there are churches and temples. I have no idea if there are cathedrals in these cities. But anyway, this is not a contest response, but it's a response. It's not a contest video entry, but it's a response to a video he made. And then I saw several people post responses. Kind of a fun concept. Show 10 albums you purchased in 10 different cities. So wasn't sure how easy that was, but I've done a lot of traveling, and whenever I travel, I go to record stores. So let's try it. In fact, of course, I already pulled the record, so I know it works. I'm going to start with the city of my birth, which San Francisco. And to me, the band that epitomizes the beginning of the psychedelic movement in San Francisco in the Summer of Love, an album that came out in 1967. I'm picking Jefferson Airplane, After Bathing at Baxter's. Obviously, could have been a Surrealistic Pillow. That's the obvious choice. This came out towards the end of the year. Their Wilder, Crazier album, kind of a favorite of mine. Not as commercial, but still with two heads. And anyway, love this album, Jefferson Airplane. So city number 1 is San Francisco, that beautiful city by the bay and the place of my birth. Jefferson Airplanes, city number 1, San Francisco. City number 2 is got on a plane with my buddy in 1976. Had seen Wings. I can't remember what order, if it was first or after, but I'd seen the Paul McCartney and Wings tour, Wings Over America in San Francisco at the Cow Palace. But we actually flew down. How old were we? We were 22, and flew down to LA and saw McCartney again at the Forum. And we hung around LA for a few days, rented a convertible, kind of the whole Fear and Loathing trip. And even though I had already bought this album because I worked in record stores, Venus and Mars, I was in Tower and I found a UK copy. So this is my UK import of this. My original album obviously was the American version, but this is, with everything inside, the UK copy of Venus and Mars. Pretty much exactly the same, except it's UK pressing. Anyway, city number 2, Los Angeles. So the music obviously doesn't always reflect the city, which I don't think is part of this concept, because that would even be harder. I might be able to do it, I'm not sure. Okay, city number 3, again, it's not in the order I've traveled to these cities, although I originally went to New York the first time ever in 1978. But I was there twice this year for work already, and I think in February I picked up this at A1 Records in the East Village. Didn't have this copy of Miles Ahead. Miles Davis, Miles Ahead, a 6-eye. So city number 3 is New York City, just like I pictured it. Okay, again, not in any particular order. City number 4, since I'm in Seattle now, I go, and I'll save Seattle to last, but I go down to Portland a lot, which is only 2.5 to 3 hours, depending on how fast or slow you drive. But I picked this about Music Millennium. Francois Hardy, part of the Yee movement of these ingenue singers of the 60s into the 70s, mostly 60s. And I got addicted to her and sort of the genre. A friend of mine gave me a book of all this music, kind of spun off by Serge Gainsbourg and the rest. But I love the series from Light in the Attic, and these are reissues, and I think I have 6 or 7 of them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I might have all of them. I just got addicted to them. You have to be in the mood. So French pop music. I probably should have got this in Paris, but I have something else that I got in Paris that's also appropriate. So Francois Hardy, Portland, Oregon, What's the connection? Hey, Music Millennium, great record store in Portland. Okay, then while we're kind of going into that thing, when I was in Paris, France, in 1978, I wanted to buy a record. I didn't want to schlep it around too much, but I bought one record, and I wanted to get something that was just so very, very, very French. So, what's Edith Piaf, right? Not much more French than Edith Piaf. So, double album, Pathé Marconi, and yeah, here we go. I mean, you got to have one Edith Piaf record in your collection, right? So, the next city number, is that number 5? I think it's number 5, is 1, 2, 3, 4. City number 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, cinco. I can't say in French, right? Somebody will be able to, but city number 5, Paris, Edith Piaf. City number 6, London, England. I saw this movie at Piccadilly Circus when it came out, The Great Rock and Roll Swindle by Sex Pistols, Julian Temple's film. And I bought this when I was in London, England, 1980, I believe I was there when I saw this, and this came out. I think it came out in 79, but 79, 80, give or take. Sex Pistols, soundtrack to the movie. It's got the great, depending how you define great, but it's got the version of Sid Vicious singing My Way, and the great version of EMI with the orchestra, which is kind of a cool version of that. But city number 6, London, England. And then getting up in a rent-a-car, and as soon as I left Paddington Station with our rent-a-car, I almost killed someone because it was the first time I had driven a stick shift on the other side with my left hand and my left foot, rather my right foot, you know, that backwards thing. And we drove up to Liverpool working on our book project that we did. And in Liverpool, I was in a record store and I saw this record, and I only bought it because I thought the name of the band was hysterical. I hadn't heard one song in 1980 by this band, Echo and the Bunnymen. I actually saw them on their first American tour as well, but I had no idea who this band was, and I bought this record sight unseen, didn't hear a thing, Crocodiles, and I fell in love with this band, you know, from Liverpool, in Liverpool. So, number 7, city number 7, Liverpool, England. City number 8, crossing the pond to Hamburg, Germany, as we traveled around working on the Beatles England and the Beatles homeland and the Hamburg clubs. I finally found a copy of the Horror Zoo Magical Mystery Tour, German edition, which is the first all true stereo, whereas some of the singles were in mono. And this has the extra bar intro to I'm the Walrus. Any Beatle collector must have this record. It's you can find out there. It's not cheap. I got a couple copies, and it's pretty pristine. But I love this cover. But on the Horror Zoo label, it's got the apple inside, but the Beatles from Hamburg, city number 8, Hamburg, Germany. Getting on a train, going down to Amsterdam. A lot of great record stores in Amsterdam. So you'd go to a cafe and smoke some hash, look at the hookers in the window, and I picked up this album. In the UK, it was called Beatles Ballads. Never came out in the US. But this is the Dutch version. Got it in Holland. And since I'm a Beatle collector, I get every cover variant as well, not just the music. So the Beatle UK ballad version had blue around it, and this has the gold around it. And this is the picture, as I recall, that was intended for what was going to be called the Beatles double album that they were going to call The Dollhouse. And because the group Family had an album just around that time called Dollhouse, they switched it, they changed the concept, and it became, as we know, the White Album. But this is Beatle ballads, or as they would say, die Moody songs. Sort of, is that moody songs or something? I don't speak Dutch. We know those photographs too. And so, number 10, since I'm back in Seattle now, I've been in Seattle for 5 years. I mean, I could, again, pick hundreds of albums out that I bought in Seattle, but I figured, you know, I pulled something that's new, fairly recent, in fact, very recent. Only the last 2 weeks this album came out. A band from Seattle, in Seattle, on a Seattle label, on Sub Pop Records. It's Taco Cat. Fun band, kind of power poppy, punky, light punk. If you ever get a chance to see them, you'll just have a good time. They're a fun kind of party band. Men and women in the band. I've seen them 3 times. Nothing serious, but I love their records, fun stuff. And did you know that Taco Cat, spelled backwards, is... Think about it. Figure it out. Add it in the comments. So thanks, James, for inspiring a bunch of us to find 10 records we bought in 10 different cities. And I ended with Seattle here with Taco Cat. Just to show you the label, that little artsy thing going. There you go. So, Mazzy loves you, and I love to travel. What can I say? Buy more records. Let's get to more cities. Mazzy out. Thanks a lot, everybody. Thanks, James. Bye.